Hello, Parsons students. This is Marcos, and this is our week 13 going into week 14 briefing. I want to quickly share with you the things we're working on so that you can make sure you're on track as we are approaching the end of our class soon. No, it's week 13. We got 14 next week. We got 15, and then 16 is our final. So there's 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks to work on this audio visual storybook. And yesterday we had some good reviews of our part 1, and I gave a little feedback, but it was all pretty straightforward for everybody. And I think the key is that each of you are trying to find ways to create the best experience in a reading out loud story with your visuals, and taking the motion graphic and sound skills that you may have a lot of or may have a little bit of, and utilize them in the best way. You've seen some of the examples, and there's a whole bunch more in the audiovisual storybook archive on the Google Drive, which I'll show you soon. But check those out if you need more references and begin to follow through on your plan. So the next step is to take that feedback you got yesterday. If your story still needs some working on, if you need to edit it or lengthen it or translate it to another language, if you're doing bilingual, that's part of what you should be doing now. You should be finalizing and updating your storyboard, so you have a very specific storyboard. I'll show you how to do that page by page, and then further explore your illustration needs. Like if you need to create more illustrations, or you need to enhance your illustrations, or do things for illustrations to give a little motion or a little effect, do that. Don't just necessarily rely on your storybook illustrations as they were in your book. Yes, that is the idea, but you can take it a little further and do custom things to make it work. And mostly it might be all about trying to get it to work from being a horizontal spread to being a vertical phone format. So do what you need on your illustrations, and then design and refine your layouts for the screen, for the story screen. So make sure you're doing that, and then keep your presentation updated. So here's just an overview of what you should be doing next for your presentation, which is to take the first couple of pages, which was your plan and your storyboard, and then to add on to that individual pages that showcase each illustration that you'll be doing, and accompanying it with the text next to it, so that you have more of a full storyboard. And making sure you have this is something you might not have right now. You make sure you have this kind of introduction to your story that you don't necessarily have to read out loud. It can just be something that when the screen pops up here, it will be the overview of your text. And then start on your story, and you should be reading this out loud and timing it and seeing how long, if things are how much time you have to make your motion move, or you're zooming out, zooming in, zooming up or down, or scrolling across, however you're going to do it. You figure out your timing by reading each of these with the illustrations, make sure they work. This is an example here where this is what the layout was, but then this designer decided that after reading through it, like maybe it would be better if each of these were done on one track, on one column, and they scrolled up and down and showed each one. We saw that in class, and that was quite effective. So that's what I mean by like kind of making sure you don't just plop your illustrations in here and call it a day. Like think it through as a moving motion experience, and make this kind of adjustment to yours. You might also want to be thinking about the kind of sounds, like should there be some flame sounds here? So, depending on what your story is about or what's happening, maybe some sounds here and there. Maybe you want to have music in the background, make sure it doesn't overpower, obviously, or take over, and make it royalty free. It's not something that will be flagged on if it's on social media. And then think about, like, if you are doing a pan across, like if you might want to showcase your illustration in the full length of it, implying that you'll see all this as it pans across. So kind of like take it to the next step, so that the idea is that by end of next week, you should be ready to go into production for the final week. But you might want to start doing a little bit of that at this point too. So here's a look at the final assignment that you should have. And this is a reminder that in the beginning of the audiovisual story, there will be this interface that pops up. It does have the ability to pop down, so it's not like it's going to necessarily cover that. There needs to be something here, but a composition that is top friendly like this is is what you should be striving for, because it will be covered up. And then here's what the full revised storyboard is with final drawings, and you can see, whoops, and you can see here it has this change. So this is on Canvas with links to a bunch of things, including the archive, the Google Drive, of course. And I put in, even though this was part of week 3 assignment, I put in the Figma template and tutorial. But here you can see in class resources, which is in the main folder, you can get to the Dirt Audiovisual book past projects, and that's got a whole bunch of stuff from past MP4s that were made. You can use that as a resource. And there's also in the other folder called Dirt Audiovisual book mock-up tutorials, you can find 2 things: a Google Doc Word document that's just Figma template instructions, and then a movie tutorial that will take you to this Figma template. And in this template, there is a mock-up with a past book in here, and the idea here is that you utilize this by switching out the photos and putting your photos and your text in here. And of course, you can put more screens in here. There's not a limit to the screens, and customize in your own way. Anima is the plugin that you'll be using, so you'll need to download that. And there's also a PDF on how to place images in Figma, as well as a movie that explains how to use the Anima plugin that you can play, and have a former student explain how that's done if you need. And if you don't want to use Figma, like a few of you expressed, you can use, I forgot the specific, Final Cut Pro, or it's one of those other motion graphic. You can use another program if you're more familiar with that. So yeah, so that's basically it. We're going to have individual meetings next week. I'll send a schedule, and basically just to check in, to show me your progress, ask me questions, and ensure that you're moving along so that you're ready to start going into production. Another thing you're doing is like start securing your talent. If you have people who are going to narrate for you, you have people that are going to like do voiceovers, character kind of voices. If there's dialogue in your story, you might want to have more than one person, or one person who can change the voice up in a funny way. But think that through and start asking the people in your life to help you with it. Or you might want to just do it yourself, just practice up on how you're going to do it, so that next week you're ready to start going into production. All right, everybody, that's it. I will see you on Zoom next week for our day of working while getting checked in on the project with individual meetings. Take care.